If King James gets his 4th ring against this extra super team, does LeBron pass MJ?
I think he has to. He's already in the conversation. No one is scoffing at the fact that we're having the conversation. And if he passes him now, then if he wins this title now, having beat another kind of outranked team, they've always been the underdog. Jordan's always been the favorite. All these things matter in the story, the narrative as we tell going forward. And I know everyone's going to count the rings, but we could do the same thing with Bill Russell. Jordan passed Russell and Jordan passed other players despite not having as many titles because the story of Jordan was so kind of life-changing and world-changing for the NBA going forward, and LeBron might do the same thing.
Well, listen, if he beats Golden State, then he's actually in the Jordan conversation. He's really not. You can have a conversation, but you're going to lose that debate decisively right now. Number one, there's the eyeball test, and everyone can say, well, I think Jordan's better, or I think LeBron's better, and I've watched them both. But when you dig deeper, when you look at like the most advanced analytics, forget about the rings. Jordan's prime's a little better. Jordan's career is a little better on average, and that includes those years where he wasn't even Jordan with Washington, and yet the average of his career is higher than LeBron. So that gap is going to widen as time goes on. It's kind of like, Dominique, when that blue dress, white dress. Remember the image? It was a blue dress, and half the people in the world saw a white dress. But the fact was that was subjective, the way the eye took it in. But there was an objective reality. They went and found the dress, and it was blue, right? When they actually went. So everyone can have opinions about the way it looks, but when you actually dig into it objectively, it's Jordan. And I've heard plenty of arguments for LeBron, some of them better than others, including he will have done something that Jordan never did should he beat this Warriors team. And that's true. Jordan never had to beat a team like this, but that's simply something that LeBron gets to do that Jordan never did or got to do. Joe DiMaggio hitting 56 straight games. Babe Ruth never did, but Babe Ruth was a greater player than Joe DiMaggio.
You can't say something that is clearly subjective is objective because it's not. We're not playing in the same era. They're not playing against each other, so we can't say it's objective. The rules are different. The circumstances are different. There's a difference between being a better player and greater. If we're talking better player, that's another conversation. Greatness is not necessarily about the statistics or the analytics. Greatness is about impact on society, impact on the world. I think that right now, Jordan's impact is certainly greater on the NBA, but he hasn't had to deal with what LeBron's dealt with. LeBron has come post-Jordan. He's been a superstar in the Michael Jordan era, been a superstar in the Twitter and social media era, and has never had a slip-up. He's had to be his own coach, his own GM. He didn't have the luxury of having one of the best coaches of all times and one of the best front offices built around him. LeBron has had to carry more weight, and he's changed the dynamic of the NBA going forward and shifted more power from the owners to the players than anyone else has done in history. So I think a few years removed, we'll look back on this in a nostalgic way in the same way that we look back on Jordan. And if he knocks off, after beating the all-time winningest team in NBA history last year, if he goes this year and then knocks off that same team who's added a top 5 player, I don't know how you can't say that his career has surpassed what Jordan accomplished.
No, two things. You bring up better and greater. This is from My Greatest Hits, Volume 2. Better and greater are different things. Better measures measures objectively how good you are, what height you achieved, and greater is how you fared versus your contemporaries. For example, the one sport that can be measured objectively, track and field, because we time them, we see how high they jump, etc. Jesse Owens would be dusted by every top 10 sprinter in the world today. In other words, every top sprinter in the world today is objectively better than Jesse Owens at running fast. And yet, how many are as great? How did they fare against their contemporaries? So you and I see eye to eye about that. My argument is Jordan is not only better, he is also greater by almost any standard you can imagine. Even the argument my friend Robin Lundberg made on SI.com, how when Jordan left, the Bulls still almost got to the finals. You know, a bad call against Scottie Pippen, and maybe they get to the finals.
Right.
And that's
not
true.
what happens with LeBron's
but just because
teams,
Jordan played on an excellent team, just because Jordan played on an excellent team doesn't mean he wasn't better than LeBron. In addition, You can argue all you want about things like that. LeBron's playing in the East. It's weaker opposition. He's constructed super teams around him, so because the East is weak, he gets to the finals. Every time he loses in the finals, it indicates he wouldn't have gotten out of the West, obviously, because he's losing to that Western Conference team. You can look at things like that all you want, but this is one or several that you just can't get around. The most advanced metrics all say Jordan was a little better. Not much better, but they all say the same thing, and it's Jordan. Jordan played in a more physical era, missed fewer games. In the full seasons he played, not when he went off to play baseball, but
Jordan's
averaging 80, 81, 82 games.
To have a bit of a physical, emotional, and mental respite is a nice thing to have in the middle of your prime.
Yes.
That's something that LeBron hasn't had in quite some time. Don't you think you get a couple weeks off here and there, Max, you might come back a little better? That'd be nice for LeBron to have because he's been going hard for quite some time. And hold on, one more thing. You brought up Jesse Owens, which is a nice thing to bring up, but that kind of plays into my point. That greatness is not defined at a time. It's defined as time goes on and we look back on the impact that he had. Jesse Owens is not nearly as revered when he won those races back in the day as he is today. So I think that that's part of that nostalgia for Jordan is part of why you might think that he's always greater. Give us a few years down the road and see how the NBA evolves after having been impacted by Earthquake LeBron, and we'll see. We'll see that he has been almost as impactful as Jordan. And if he wins this finals, I think that he might be. I think if he wins this finals, he goes to being just as impactful as Jordan, and then you take it to the off-the-court stuff. He has been a model. He's been what we all thought Tiger Woods was going to be in this social media era. He's had no faux pas, no slip-ups. When there's all these eyes on him, cameras on him, I think that's significant also, and it should not go unnoticed when we're talking about greatness.